and welcome to Food Rebels. This is the podcast that brings you brands, chef, live on-air tastings, and we are dedicated, as you know, to the more rebellious side of the food world. We celebrate people who've challenged the status quo. They're doing things a little bit differently, and that's what we love. You know me, I'm AJ Sharp. I'm the taste expert, food writer, great taste judge, and a business owner. And we've got a really great show ahead of us with 2 different drinks products, which are brightening up my Valentine's Day. Today on the show, we have Helen Matheson-Pollock from Nine Oaks Vineyard. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you very much.
And we've also got Ivo Devereux from Sapling Spirits. Welcome, Ivo.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Well, we're just going to have a little chat. We've got what looks like the start of a really great party here. Oh, I haven't even mentioned producer Georgie.
Oh, hello, I'm here as well.
She's here. She's got a mic again because but the people love her. So she's back on the mic. We're loving it. And it looks like we're about to have a party, doesn't it?
It does. It looks like a great party.
We've got wine. We've got spirits.
Yeah.
We've even got some Fever Tree mixers here to mix up. Let's start with the wine, I think. Helen, can you tell me, is it your vineyard? Did you buy a vineyard?
We did not buy a vineyard. It is our vineyard, so I run it along with my husband, Martin. The land is in my family, and we took it over. We rented it initially, and we planted it with vines. First in 2020, we planted...
Oh, you planted them?
Yeah, we planted just a small plot then. We planted just over 4,000 Chardonnay vines and 500 Pinot Noir vines. And then a year later, we planted another 10,000-ish vines, more Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, and Bacchus.
Wow, that's amazing. So it takes a few years, doesn't it, for the vines to really kind of get into their groove. So is that where you're at now? Are they starting to come into their own?
Yeah, we've been incredibly lucky with the weather since we started. So we took a tiny harvest from that top plot in 2021, so just the second season for the vines. And then those grapes have been doing better and better. So we've now had 2 subsequent harvests, and it's the 2022 harvest that we've got wine for today. And then the big plot that we planted, we only harvested for the first time in 2023, which was a record year. So there's a lot more wine coming this year. Amazing.
And do you do it all yourself?
We do all the growing and the vast majority of the labour ourselves. We have to bring in a little bit of help from local support, but we also work with our community, particularly for the harvest, for that, because that's great fun. But we have the wine made under contract by a company called Defined Wines in Bridge.
Henry Sugden.
Yes, exactly.
That's really cool. We've got, where I used to live in Pluckley, a really good friend runs a vineyard called Brissenden, and she would pull in all the mums from the local schools, and we'd go and help with bud rubbing or harvesting or pruning or that kind of stuff. Really good fun.
Yeah, it's often the case of more the merrier, because when things need to be done, they need to be done. So you'll call on whoever you can to get things going.
That's right, isn't it? Because the harvest, is it something like the sugar level or something like that? How does that work?
You need a minimum sugar level, really, particularly for still wine. So when the weather's in the right place, you have to go, because if you get too much water on the grapes for harvest, then it dilutes it all down. If it's underripe, you won't get the right sweetness, the right balance of alcohol, because the sugar turns into the alcohol. So you have to get that sweet spot.
So when it's ready, it's like all hands on deck. We're going to get these grapes off the vines right now.
And there are now, I think it's just under 500 vineyards in Kent. And the majority of us grow the same or similar grapes. So they're all ready to harvest
exactly within the same time.
Within a very small range. So in places like Defined Wines, they work around the clock, 24 hours for sort of 6-8 weeks across that period. And they've got deliveries coming in at all times of day and night. So you just have to get it done.
How did you get into wine in the first place? I mean, what made you want to plant your 400 vines? Or 4,000, sorry.
Yeah, initially the 4,000. So we've got, I think, 15,500 total now across three hectares. It sounds silly, but, we always enjoyed drinking wine.
Not silly
at
all.
And then started...
Be crazy if you didn't.
Thinking more and more about the process. We grew just some vines in pots up our little trellis in our postage stamp garden in North Essex. We were based there with my husband when he was in the army, and we just started doing that. And then the interest grew, and it's such a huge industry in Kent. We were overseas for a number of years, and we were wanting to come back, but neither of us wanted to go into office jobs. We were trying to work out what to do, and the land became available. And we decided to take the risk and just go for it and just plant.
So you had no background at all?
A lot of research. A lot of research.
And how did you know which grape you wanted to do, or what was...
We worked with a local consultant. Well, he's based in London, but Stephen Skelton was kind of one of the fathers of English wine. You know, worked with Chapeldown originally way back.
He's a legend, isn't he?
Yes. So we worked with him initially to do a kind of a site survey and make sure that it was workable.
The land, that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because it's, you know, it's not south-facing. Well, not majority, as you always think you would need. But it's got a decent slope and it's got a lot of sun. But it's also quite nicely sheltered, so we're not too at risk of frost damage, that kind of thing. So it was viable, and we decided just to go for it. But that's partly why we planted small initially.
Yeah.
The plan was just the 4,000 Chardonnay vines, which was kind of the smallest we thought we could start with to give us enough wine to test the concept, really. But it wasn't all in right from the beginning.
Very beginning, sure.
And then the 500 Pinot Noir vines were because another local consultant that we worked with, who is Sam Barnes from Biddenden.
Oh, yeah, we know Sam.
He had 500 vines that someone else couldn't fit in. And he said, got a bit of space, do you want some vines? And we said, oh, yeah, let's get that started. So we did. So we ended up with both from the beginning.
Amazing.
And they've done brilliantly.
And you've got the Chardonnay you've brought in.
Yes, I have. Yes. So we've got 2 wines from our 2022 harvest, but we sold out of the rosé already.
Wow.
It was just from those 500 sort of afterthought vines, which actually did phenomenally well. But we only had just under 1,000 bottles of rosé, and we sold out in just under 6 months.
And did you make that from the Pinot Noir grapes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it was 100% Pinot Noir. It was a really lovely wine. So I'm very sorry I can't bring any for you to taste. But the next iteration will be out end of March, very early April. So
brilliant. And you're not making a red then? You're making the rosé and the white?
So first round, we made a rosé and a white just from this plot. But we've planted strategically. So even though we've only got 4 grape varieties, we've got different clones within those, better for still or sparkling. So there's scope. You know, we're watching and waiting to see what other vineyards are doing with their red wines, because there is a real kind of increase in the number of English vineyards doing red wine, and there are new grapes. So people are doing Pinot Noir, but also blending with Devereux and other newer grapes. So we've got the Pinot Noir, we've got the Pinot Meunier, and then the Chardonnay can nicely support that in a field blend or something. But we're not yet doing a red wine. We decided with young vines and with the weather.
It needs to be hotter, really, for red wine, doesn't it?
Yes.
Generally.
So in an exceptional year, we might do a little bit, but it's not our main goal. We're trying to concentrate on our single varietal, still white and rosés, and then our sparkling.
Brilliant.
So sparkling is going to come in.
Yes. So we harvested our first vines in 2021, just that tiny harvest. We only took just under half a ton, and that has been on lees for 2 full years. So we harvested in 2021, but we are eagerly awaiting that wine in July 2024. That will be our first sparkling. So it's been a long time in the making.
So it takes that long to make sparkling?
For it to be quality English sparkling wine, which is the PDO, banner, it has to be on lees. So in the bottle, with the yeast, in contact with the yeast for its second ferment for at least 9 months.
Oh, I see.
I think the average is sort of 12 to 18 months, but we decided from the beginning to go for a full 2 years. So,
wow. Okay, so you're just waiting for that one to come.
Yeah. So and then it will just keep rolling. So this still and the rosé has sort of lapped it. The other's been in bottle first, and it'll be followed up by a Blanc de Blanc from our 2022 harvest. So the neighbouring grapes to this Chardonnay. So it's a pure Chardonnay. It will be a sparkling Chardonnay that we'll get in sort of summer 2025. And then from the 2023 harvest, we've actually separated it. So we'll do a Blanc de Blanc again, a sparkling Chardonnay. And we're doing a skin contact Rose de Noir. So we've taken our Pinot Meunier and our Pinot Noir, done a very gentle skin contact press, and then we're going to ferment that on these for, again, 2 years. So that should be quite special, but we'll have to wait until 2026 to find
we'll
out.
have to get you back.
Good.
When it
We'll
comes
come
in.
do an annual top-up tasting.
I mean, this is a gorgeous Chardonnay. Chardonnay often gets a bad rep, doesn't it? Because people think of it as being heavily oaked and being really creamy and buttery. Chardonnay is actually one of the most drunk grapes in wine. It's part of champagne. It's part of so many different things. You think of Chablis and so many different things. They've all got Chardonnay in them. and people love to say, was it ABC? Anything but Chardonnay.
Yep.
And actually, it's really unfair rep. It's really unfair. And something like this, which has not got, you've not put this on oak, have you?
It is. It's very lightly oaked. So 2/3 of it are barrel aged in seasoned barrels. So between 1 and 4, but the majority 2 to 3 seasons old.
Yeah.
So just 2/3 of it just for 6 months. So you get those secondary qualities coming in, but not the heavy,
There's
oaky,
no heavy
smoky, sort of petrol-y.
vanilla. Yeah.
No.
It's not overpowering.
It's very lively. It's very crisp. There's a minerality to it. I've got, gooseberry and all the freshness and the citrus notes that you'd expect, but it's really fresh. What did you think of that, Ivan?
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely delicious. Yeah, and loved hearing about how it was all made in the first place. Thanks a lot for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I think, I thought just bringing Chardonnay, sorry, we've not got a wider variety to taste, but actually it does tick that box because people do, as you say, have really strong expectations of Chardonnay. And when I'm out doing tours and tastings or at events, they say, oh, I don't like Chardonnay, and they're expecting it to be bright yellow and to smell like a petrol station. And I don't like that. And it was a conversation my husband and I had when we were making it, because I would have said, oh, not Chardonnay. So I said, we're not making a wine that I can't confidently drink and talk to people about and ultimately sell. We want to convince people that they should be drinking English wine and should ideally be drinking our wines. So we've got to make good wines that we can believe in, support and explain the winemaking decisions that we've made. And if you look at it, it's very, very pale,
very pale.
Almost colourless.
Yeah, it's
and
really
as you
pale.
say, you get the sort of quite the fresh, almost the gooseberry, a little bit of apple and pear, maybe a touch of stone fruit and the minerality. And it's quite interesting that the minerality is there because we are on sandy soil rather than chalk soil. There's so much in Kent about it having the same geology as Champagne. Actually, there's a 1.5 mile green sands ridge running through the middle, and that's us. So even though we're only, say, 3 miles from Pluckley, 3 miles from Westwell, we're on a completely different soil.
Interesting.
So we're sands, so we're green sands, but you still get that kind of
It's beautiful.
influence in
It's
it.
a really easy drinking.
Yeah, that's what I say.
But
It feels really easy drinking, like aperitif-y kind of, sit around and have some crisps in it with that. Delicious.
It's got a lovely length, though. You can taste it's a quality wine. It's been well made. It's lovely.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Ivo, I'm really excited about these beautiful looking bottles on the studio table here. Can you tell us about Sapling?
Sure. So, Sapling kind of summed up in one, I guess, the climate positive spirits brand. So we're all about leaving the planet in a better way than the way that we found it. And it's all made locally in Britain, in London, and using local wheat from farmers around the UK as well.
Amazing. So where do you source your wheat from?
So the wheat comes from various different farms, from Norfolk, actually some farms in Kent as well. So kind of all over the UK, whoever's kind of got the stuff that we need at the time, we need it.
So wheat, just take us very briefly through the process of how wheat becomes vodka.
Sure. So anything that creates starch can create vodka. Essentially, vodka is just ethanol and water mixed together. So you could make a vodka out of, what people traditionally see as potato or rye or wheat or grapes. You could actually make a vodka from. But so it's the fermentation process and it's those starches then turning into alcohol. And then for vodka, it just gets mixed with water. And for gin, it gets redistilled with botanicals.
Amazing. And what varieties have you brought in here for us to try?
We've got our climate positive, just plain vodka. We've got our zero waste raspberry and hibiscus vodka using wonky raspberries. And the kind of special thing about the raspberry and hibiscus vodka is most flavoured vodkas that you'll try from supermarkets is using a kind of additive or a fake flavouring in order to mask, what they think it would taste like. Whereas this is using real raspberry, so it gives it that really natural flavour to it. And then we've got a coffee vodka here that we made exclusively with the Pig Hotels using their waste coffee husks to make it.
That's really cool. I love that. What should we start with? Should we start with the plain vodka?
We have actually also got a gin here as well, but the bottle's next door, so I forgot to bring it up. But we should start with, why don't we start with the raspberry and hibiscus?
Okay.
Because it's nice and fruity and it's an easy way to get into it.
Although it's a tall, pink, beautiful bottle with Is it an apple tree on the side of it? What is the tree?
So the tree, we're called Sapling as a company, kind of the tree aspect being very central to our company right from the beginning. We plant one tree for every single bottle of vodka and gin that we sell. We try and make it kind of as transparent as we possibly can as well. So there's a tree number on the cork of every bottle that you can then plug into our website and find out exactly where that tree's been planted. So
in the UK?
Well, so in the tree planting season, which is kind of the winter months between October and March, it's all in the UK. And then throughout the rest of the year, we've got about sort of 12 different projects from Canada to the Atlas Mountains in Morocco that we work very closely with. But we planted about 200,000 trees this year. So
wow. I'm going to reforest the whole world. That's amazing.
That's the plan. So the idea is kind of the more drunk you get as you're drinking it, the better you're being for the planet, really.
I love that.
The smell, even before you've even tasted it, is...
And we're just drinking this neat.
Yeah.
Like crazy people on a Wednesday, because that's what you do.
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah, so there should be a nice kind of subtle herbaceous note from the hibiscus coming through as well, but it's a bit more subtle, and the raspberry's definitely the leader in the on the palate. But yeah, it goes down really well. We just won a gold award at the Vodka Masters for the raspberry and hibiscus.
Oh, well done!
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. You've got trees on the side of all of the different bottles here. They're absolutely beautiful. Did you have an artist or somebody put this together for you?
Yeah, so we started this about 5.5 years ago now, and we didn't have a huge amount of money when setting it up. We were trying to do our best with what we had, and so we actually chose a designer that had never designed a bottle before in their life. So he was my flatmate at the time. He did some kind of interior design stuff, and also he was actually a photographer. It was kind of his main thing. But our thought process was that if we use an agency that all the other brands had used, then it wouldn't stand out on shelf. So we thought if we use someone that had never done it before, the thing we had to our advantage was that it would look really different to everything else. And that definitely has happened with this. It definitely made it a little bit trickier to produce because he put quite a lot of colours in the front of the bottle. And traditionally, brand designers would only probably use 2 or 3, but it has made it stand out significantly, yeah.
It's so interesting, isn't it, how sometimes the best things are created by somebody who isn't necessarily their job to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And he was a good friend as well, so it made the journey of designing it quite a fun process. And I think when something's had a lot of kind of laughing and fun and joy at the heart of it, it usually shows through in the end. So, no, we're really happy with the design. We actually, not to keep talking about awards, but we did just win a Masters Award for the design as well recently.
Wicked.
In the same competition, so that's exciting.
Which one do you sell most of?
So the plain vodka is our kind of hero product. It's what we started with in October 2018. And that probably makes up about 70% of our sales at the moment. The gin we bought out about 2 years later. And it's an absolutely fantastic gin. We absolutely love it. But vodka is what we started with and is very much our hero product and what we lead with.
I love vodka. I feel like I've forgotten about it and now I need to rediscover it.
Yeah, exactly. It slightly gets forgotten about. The reason we started with vodka actually is because we felt like most of the other spirits categories had a lot of focus on it, and people either drank vodka because it was a kind of status piece in a club or it was the cheapest thing they could possibly get. And we thought, there was lots of people in between that really cared about the story behind what they were drinking. It was a category that we thought we could come in and shake up.
You're so right. Vodka is either at the top or the bottom. That's exactly how I think of it, without all the things in between. But actually, I love gin. I drink gin a lot at home, but I don't actually always want the complexity of a ton of different botanicals. Sometimes I just want a really good quality like this. I mean, there is complexity in your hibiscus and raspberry, but that pure vodka is just beautifully smooth. To be able to sip a vodka without a mixer is actually quite unique, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, no, we're really, really happy with that, the way our vodka's turned out. We similarly hadn't been working in the spirits trade for just before we started this. So we spent about 1.5 years really coming to grips with how it all worked and, developed what we're drinking today. So it took us a while, but we got there in the end.
What made you want to start a vodka brand to begin with?
It really started actually with the kind of sustainability aspect first. So I guess the spirits itself was more of a conduit towards our kind of end goals. And it started really because of a music festival that my business partner and I set up a few years before. I guess while setting up this music festival. So the foundation of the event was about trying to educate people on sustainability, but also mixing it in with a really fun, enjoyable event. That festival actually started because of a tree planting project that we were doing off the west coast of Scotland, where about 150,000 trees had burnt down, and we were there trying to replant these trees and figuring out how could we get more of the locals involved in this tree planting project. And we found out quite quickly just asking people to come and plant trees with us in the middle of winter in Scotland was not working for obvious reasons. And so we ended up landing on the idea of turning it into a kind of tree planting party where we plant trees in the day. And we built a little mini cocktail bar, rented some speakers, and turned it into a party in the evening. So we essentially kind of, in return for their free labour, we gave them an awesome event in the evening. And it worked really well. We got about 80 of the locals involved, all kind of different age ranges from 18 to kind of 65-year-old people, all kind of mucking in together. And then we turned it into a music festival the year after that was a bit more official. And whilst setting that up, found out quite quickly that there weren't any spirits brands that we felt aligned with the mission of the music festival, which was about bringing people together for a fun time, but also having a positive impact on the planet. And so that was kind of, I guess, the moment where we decided, let's quit our jobs and make a vodka brand.
But looking after trees is actually a full-time job. I mean, it's not just about planting it, is it? I mean, you have to go back and you have to water them and you have to make sure that they see through their life cycle. You know, it's not just plop one in. So how do you manage all that?
So it completely depends on the project that we're doing, but you're right, maintenance is as important. And so the projects vary. We either have private land projects where we'll work with the Woodland Trust, so we'll find landowners, we'll fund the projects in partnership with the Woodland Trust, put together the volunteers, quite often bartenders and kind of spirits buyers and things like that from our side. So that's one way of doing it. And at that point, it's the landowner's responsibility to actually do the maintenance. And they have to actually uphold, in order to kind of maintain their grant through the Woodland Trust and ourselves, they have to have a 75% survival rate. If they don't, they have to pay for the replanting themselves. So it's a kind of, there is a kind of
initiative
in making sure those trees survive. The other projects that we have are in partnership with tree planting charities. So we work with charities like Trees for Cities. And again, once we've kind of paid for the trees to go in the ground and helped out with the volunteers, it's kind of the onus is on the charity to make sure that the trees survive. But, you know, they care as much as we do about making sure those trees survive too. So it slightly depends on the project.
And then one of the other things that you do is you have refills.
Is that what this pouch is here?
That's what that pouch is, yeah.
There's a kind of beautiful looking pouch with the design on the front of it, but it's just got a kind of, what is this? What would you call this?
Well, a spout, a kind of nozzle, yeah, exactly. For you.
So you buy your beautiful bottle.
Yeah.
And then instead of having to buy the bottle every time, you can just fill it up with this pouch.
Exactly. And so there's a fully circular free post system as well. So rather than making it really kind of nightmarish for the end customer to recycle the pouch, they can just chuck it into a post box. There's a free post system on it. It'll get sent straight back to us for refilling and recycling.
Oh, wow, look at this. There's like a stamp on the back and it says, "Dear Postie, these empty pouches are not rubbish and are part of a free post scheme. They will make their way back to us if you're kind enough to return them to depot."
Exactly.
Love it.
So we try and
Really
make it
clever.
as easy as possible for the end consumer to do it. And so we actually bought these out about a year and a half, 2 years ago. We're the only spirits brand on Ocado to have a kind of refill pouch, and we're kind of trialing it out with them at the moment. And hopefully down the line, you know, the likes of Waitrose, etc., will be behind it. But we started really with our B2B refill scheme. So we sell 5-litre eco boxes, we call them, into bars, hotels and restaurants.
Nice.
And we stocked about 130,000 bottles essentially from being produced last year just through the refill scheme.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, and the glass production makes up about 75% of the actual carbon output of each bottle. So just cutting that glass out makes a huge difference.
And these cost less, presumably, than the original bottle?
Yeah, they're about sort of £4 cheaper, yeah.
Yeah, so you're not paying for the price of the bottle each time, so you've actually got that
Yeah, so there's an incentive.
saving.
Yeah, there's a saving incentive as well, yeah.
And you're B Corp? I see
We're
this.
B Corp.
I imagine you got B Corp quite easily since your value chain is pretty robust.
Yeah, we're actually, I think we're the third or the fourth highest scoring B Corp in spirits in the world, actually.
No way.
So yeah, we score about 111 points, and as you can imagine, a lot of that's due to our sustainability initiatives. But as you know, with B Corp, it's kind of a holistic approach across the business.
The whole thing.
It's delicious. Can we try this gin? I think you've poured us out a gin. Love to hear what Helen thinks about it.
I'm intrigued by the gin because I'm not a big spirits drinker. And I can't remember ever actually sipping a vodka, as you say, and enjoying the sipping. And actually, I enjoyed both of those, particularly the raspberry. So let's see.
That's very kind of
see
you to
how
say.
you do with the gin.
So the gin
Smells lovely.
It does.
Like really botanical, but in a really nice way.
Lovely.
So it's a
juniper
citrus
punch.
and juniper led gin. But like you were saying before, there's all these gins that have got kind of 1,000,001 different botanicals from the moon and beyond. And with our gin, we just really wanted it to be as simple as it possibly could, and be as much about the quality of the liquid as it is as much about the kind of flavours involved. So, as I said, yeah, it's very much a kind of citrus-led with a nice juniper kick to it as well.
Well, I have to say that
it's lovely.
Might be the first time I've actively enjoyed a gin.
Really?
Without, I'm gonna top it up a little bit with my mixer now, but
yeah, we've just
Appreciate
put
that.
a little bit of Fever Tree pink grapefruit soda in, which is obviously not a tonic, but actually goes really well, doesn't it? It's really lovely.
That's kind of a summer cocktail in a glass now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fresh, lively, leaves a really nice citrus finish. Lovely.
Great. I'm glad you all like it.
Oh, I love it. I really love the concept. And the gin comes in a box. Is that one of your is that something that you would normally give to a bar or a restaurant rather than what you would buy at home?
So that's the 5 litre eco refill box. So those are all just for businesses, and I kind of they're never front of house, always behind.
Sure.
And people refill the bottle. So each bar would, on average, each year would buy between 6 and 12 bottles, and then we'll use those for the rest of the year to fill them up. Yeah.
And where can people listening to this? Where are you stocked? Where can people buy your bottles?
We're launching into Waitrose sort of middle of February. So
awesome.
So I guess by now it'll be
Yeah.
it should be there.
Yeah.
And Ocado, we're on Virgin Airlines, which is very exciting, and Fortnum and Mason,
Nice.
Fenwick, Selfridges, those kinds of places.
How
And
much?
what price is it? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. How much? I was going to say.
So it's about between £30 and £35, depending on where you're buying it. But
Brilliant.
about £30 retail.
Brilliant. And I meant to ask you, Helen, where can we buy 9 Oak Chardonnay or...
So the Chardonnay is currently available on our website, 9-oaks.co.uk. And then we are in various local retailers. We're much smaller than Sapling, but we're in sort of McNaid Food Hall locally, Cork, the wine shop in Canterbury. It does amazing things for English wine, Blackley Farm Shop, Hothfield Village Stores, which is our local. And then from 1st of June this year, we'll be opening up for tours and tastings on the Vineyard.
Where are you based?
Hothfield. So
Hothfield.
just outside Ashford, yeah. So we are...
Ashford in Kent.
Just outside Ashford in Kent, yeah. We are under an hour door-to-door from St Pancras on the high speed. We're Ashford's closest vineyard, so we're very close to the international train station. We're working with Ashford Borough Council at the moment because they've got a big on-the-map initiative to promote local vineyards and vineyard tourism because there's so much going on locally.
Brilliant.
So we're very accessible.
Cool. So you can buy that on the 9-oaks.co.uk website. Sapling sounds like all over the place. Waitrose and on your website?
Yeah, saplingspirits.com. You can get it on Amazon, Ocado. So yeah, online.
Brilliant.
Spots.
Well, I really recommend you guys do that. Unbelievably, we're out of time. Thank you so much to Helen Matheson-Pollock from 9 Oaks Vineyard. And thank you so much to Ivo Devereux from Sapling Spirits. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you,
Great.
producer Georgie, as ever, keeping the show on the road brilliantly. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Food Rebels, which is available on radio stations around the UK. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Audible. Please remember to subscribe and rate us with 5 stars. It makes a huge difference to our podcast. We're also on Instagram at food_rebels. So give us a follow. Thanks for joining. Make sure you taste the rebellion.